Good evening, Eswatini, and welcome to the 8 p.m. news broadcast brought to you by Eswatini TV. My name is Nondobego Nzabkelwago. Let's take a look at tonight's headlines. The Development Bank of Southern Africa has donated personal protective equipment worth 9.3 million emalangeni to the Kingdom of Eswatini. The Kirsch Foundation has donated 45 million emalangeni, which will provide food aid to needy eMaswati. Head teachers have asked government to allow Form 3s to go back to school. Let's get to the news. The Development Bank of Southern Africa has donated personal protective equipment to the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini worth 9.3 million emalangeni in contribution to the fight against the spread of COVID-19. The equipment was handed over to the Deputy Prime Minister, Senator Themba Masuku, by Dr. Philip Nisi on behalf of the bank.
Presenting the consignment on behalf of the Development Bank of Southern Africa was the chairperson of the Resource Mobilization Committee, Dr. Phil Nisi, who said that COVID-19 pandemic can be defeated by working together in a coordinated manner across the region, and this is why the bank has decided to support the Kingdom of Eswatini with the consignment.
This gesture is as a result of what I would like to call a public-private partnership engagement led by professional relationships that the Kingdom of Eswatini has with the executives of DBSA.
Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku has conveyed his appreciation to World Vision Eswatini on behalf of His Majesty's government in the fight against the pandemic that seems to be ravaging the globe.
Allow me to express my humble gratitude on behalf of His Majesty's government to the Development Bank of Southern Africa for the invaluable donation that we are receiving today. The Kingdom of Eswatini has experienced exponential increase in the number of COVID-19 positive cases in the recent past weeks. This calls for every Leswati to put more effort in adhering to the health preventive measures as the virus threatens the health and well-being of the citizens of the Kingdom of Eswatini and the whole world.
The Deputy Prime Minister then appealed to all eMaswati to take this virus very seriously and avoid neglecting the regulations by the Ministry of Health in order to conquer this war of the virus. Reporting, Amzoto Dlamini with Nelsi West Milane in Matapa.
World Vision Eswatini has donated personal protective equipment worth 2.7 million emalangeni to the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini. The equipment was handed over to Deputy Prime Minister Senator Themba Masuku by World Vision Country Director Francis Dube at the Central Medical Stores in Matapa.
The consignment, including 1 million face masks, gowns and other personal protective equipment, will be used by frontline workers as well as people who are already infected by the virus in the hospitals around the country. Presenting the donation was World Vision Country Program Director Francis Dube, who said that World Vision is committed to supporting government in dealing with COVID-19, and it is not the first time they donated with the consignment, as earlier they donated PPEs amounting to 9.3 million emalangeni.
We bring today a number of infection prevention equipment, which include the personal protective equipment to protect the patients, but also to protect the frontline staff in their daily conduct and support as they work in areas or in hospitals where we have got patients who are highly infected.
Receiving the donation was the Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku, who has commended the organization for supporting His Majesty's government during these difficult times of COVID-19 pandemic.
Nasesikhathini letikahle ukhona World Vision, nesikhathini letimatima ngaso sonke isikhathi ukhona ubambisa live. Sibonga ke lamhla ukuthi athule nangu umthwalo lo conzene netinto letfanana nema PPE kusho ukuthi tintfo letifanana nema-medical equipment letisebenza etibhedlela naletitembatfo.
The Minister of Health, Lizunkoso, also conveyed her appreciation to World Vision, Eswatini, for donating with the PPEs, especially because the number of people being infected by the virus is still increasing countrywide. The minister then urges all Emaswati to adhere to the regulations issued by the Ministry of Health and World Health Organization in order to combat the spread of the virus. Reporting, Amzodo Adlamini with Nelisiwe Simelane in Matsapam.
The Evangelical Church has donated 100 bags of 10 kg rice and 1,700 face masks, which will be distributed to different schools around the kingdom. Meanwhile, Japanese Cause International has donated 200 blankets to Philani Maswati charity organization, which will be given to the elderly.
The 110 kg packages of rice and 1,700 face masks have been donated by the Evangelical Church with the aim of supporting the citizens of this country who have been heavily affected by the outbreak of COVID-19 outbreak. Chairperson of the Evangelical Church, Jabulani Msani, says the role of the church is not to look after the spiritual aspect only, but also to take care of the physical needs of a Maswati, especially during this difficult time of COVID-19. The director of Japanese Cause International, Abu Talibu Bukhari, who donated 200 blankets to Philani Maswati charity organization, says they understand the predicaments faced by the elderly people during this time of COVID-19. Therefore, this is a way of supporting them during this winter season. The Deputy Prime Minister, Themba Masuku, says this donation will go a long way in supporting school-going children and the elderly people of this country during this time of COVID-19 pandemic.
Sithi nje nawubuyele emuva sibongele kakhulu ubongele uhulumende weNgwenyama ukuthi libandla nalo lisukume libonakale lita to lekelela umhlaba usenkingeni lengaka lebhekene nalomkhuhlane. Masaka ama 10 kg langaka banengi labatawuzuza kuwo simo lengaphandle sibi kakhulu.
Masuku then appealed to other organizations to come on board and support the citizens of this country in order to conquer the spread of the pandemic. Reporting, Amzodo Adlamini with Nelisiwe Simelane in Matsapam.
The Kirsch Foundation has yet again donated 45 million to the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini, which will be distributed to those hardest hit by the outbreak of COVID-19 and in urgent need of food assistance. The money was handed over to the Disaster Management Agency CEO, Russell Dlamini, by the Kirsch Foundation CEO in Eswatini, George Lees.
When presenting the second tranche of 45 million relief assistance to the National Disaster Management Agency, Kirsch Foundation Chief Executive Officer George Lees explained that in the months of the outbreak of coronavirus in Eswatini, the foundation has assisted the kingdom with funds amounting to 190 million emalangeni, 90 million of which has been dedicated to food assistance. Lees expressed the foundation's commitment to complementing the kingdom's coronavirus combat efforts.
We are also conscious that small pockets of people throughout the kingdom necessarily have been falling through the net for, understandable reasons, and that's why you've probably been reading about the Kirsch Foundation out in the rural areas, giving cash and food to various small pockets. And we intend to continue doing that where we come across such a need.
National Disaster Management Agency CEO Russell Dlamini praised the Kirsch Foundation for positively impacting the people of Eswatini in such times as the 190 million emalangeni donated by the foundation thus far has not just been used for food assistance, as part of the relief assistance has been used to procure much needed personal protective equipment for health workers.
We are very much appreciative of the support, because in the beginning we were targeting 301,000 people. So we have exceeded by far the target that we had. And all this
The NDMA CEO gave an assurance that in the second phase of the Cash for Food Assistance Program, efforts have been strengthened to ensure that deserving Emaswati receive top priority for this assistance. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbonga Dube in Babane.
And now for the COVID-19 update from the Ministry of Health. The country has reported yet another COVID-19 related death. According to a statement released by the Minister for Health, Lizingosi, the deceased is a 39-year-old woman from the Manzini region. She was seen at one of the country's health facilities on the 12th of July 2020, presenting with severe respiratory symptoms due to a pre-existing illness and treated as a suspect of COVID-19. She succumbed to COVID-19 on the 15th of July 2020. The country now has recorded 21 fatalities due to COVID-19. The minister says they have recorded 63 COVID-19 confirmed cases in the past 24 hours after having received 529 results. There are 732 active cases in the kingdom. 736 people have since recovered from COVID-19. Eswatini has recorded 21 COVID-19 related deaths. The Manzini region has recorded 803 confirmed COVID-19 patients, Hoho 495, Shiselweni 131, and Lubombo 123. Let's continue with the news. Principals have asked government to allow Form 3s to return back to class to continue with their lessons. The head teachers submitted their proposal during a meeting with the Ministry of Education.
The Ministry of Education organized this meeting with principals to gather what challenges they are facing at their schools after the resuming of lessons for Form 5 learners 2 weeks ago. The aim of this meeting is for principals to submit their suggestions, opinions and way forward to ensure the safety of learners.
Asithengisi ngetimpilo tenu netebantu abesikolo. Siyathi ukuthi kulikhunda lapho nikhona khona.
Commended principals and teachers' efforts in the preparation of reopening of schools. He says during the period of touring schools before they opened, he noticed that some schools went out of their way to make sure the learners' safety. The principals then submitted their suggestions.
Labanye babuya basikhalela ngekuthi parent didn't want to sign.
Some learners come crying to us telling us that their parents refused to sign consenting forms, which then forces us as principals to let them go to class illegally. How then do we deal with this?
PS, thank you for resuming classes for Form 5 learners. But may you kindly consider resuming lessons for Form 3s as well, because they are missing out on a lot of work.
55.
PS, we ask that you allow those that are above 50 or 55 to apply for early retirement so that they can minimize risk of contracting the virus.
Reporting, I'm Lungulele Makagula with Muzim Konda in Babane.
The Relay Fitkin Memorial Hospital in Manzini tests and treats 40% of the population on COVID-19 related matters. This was said by Dr. Elizabeth Hind during the 93rd anniversary at the RFM Hospital.
The RFM Hospital was officially opened in 1926 on the 16th of July by Dr. David Hind, marking it officially 93 years old this year. The hospital has been developed and extended over the years by adding crucial departments such as the art clinic and others. As part of the celebration, the hospital management organized a tour of the hospital for invited guests. The Dr. Hind-led tour started at the Old Stone Church, proceeded to the Orphans' Home, Nurses' Home, the Family Home, and the Memorial Chapel, which is in honor of Rosemary Hind, which is now used as the COVID-19 center where patients are tested and treated. Dr. Elizabeth Hind says the hospital has treated many people over the years and it shall continue to do so.
The hospital is still serving everybody, and the chapel that was built in memorial of my mother, Rosemary Hind, is now being used as the COVID-19 testing center. And sadly, Manzini is kind of a hub for everything, and 40% of the testing and so forth and treatment is being done here. And if people have to be hospitalized, they are transferred to Mavuso and to Good Shepherd.
Manzini South Member of Parliament Thandi Nxumalo says the hospital has faced so many challenges over the years, and she commends it because it is still standing.
Etikhatsini letilikhoni kakhulu but nje basurvivile to what lesibona konamuhla.
Reporting, I'm Lungwelele Makakula with Muzim Konda in Manzini.
A Form 5 pupil from Lubombo Central High School was turned back home after pupils alerted teachers that the pupil was working as a waitress in a certain hotel around Zulini that is currently used as a quarantine center for COVID-19 suspected cases. The Lubombo COVID-19 task team visited the school to find out what really happened and how the pupil can be assisted so that everybody can be at ease.
A Form 5 pupil from Lubombo Central High School was turned back home following reports from other pupils that he was working as a waitress in one of the hotels in the country that are used to quarantine people who are coronavirus suspects. The pupil is said to have admitted that he worked for this particular hotel. However, when asked if he was tested for COVID-19, which he said he was tested before coming to school, the principal of the school, who preferred not to comment on camera, said teachers asked for the results which he failed to produce. It is for that reason that the head teacher asked the pupil to return home. The Lubombo Region Task Team, after receiving this report, visited the school to find out what had happened. Kukunzalo, the Task Team Communications Officer, says this matter is under investigation. Nzalo said the Rapid Response Team in the Lubombo region will visit the school tomorrow. She warned pupils to be mindful of all the places they visit during their spare time.
Siltiko letempilo sasikhulumisene neLubombo Rapid Response Team kusasa lokusako bavukela khona eLubombo Central bayonaka yona lenzaba yemfundzi kwekuthi ngabe ngitiphi indlela letingendiwa kwekuthi kusitakale umfundzi nabothishela ekhatsi.
We tried to reach the regional education officer in the Lubombo region. However, we were advised to contact the office tomorrow. For Eswatini TV News Sondomlangeni with Themba Shabangu in Sitegi.
In trying to reach out to abused children around the kingdom, World Vision has compiled a book through which abused children can write and tell their stories. According to the director, Francis Dube, the book will also inculcate a culture of reading to children locally.
Francis Dube, the director of World Vision Eswatini, says this book is a collection of different stories from different kids in different community schools around the country. He says as an organization focusing on the well-being of children in the country is at the core of their mandate. The book will not only be a voice for children, but it will inculcate the culture of writing to the kids. Dube says the project has been supported by the Australian aid and it will be published by Tusay.
We have a campaign that we are running as an organization ending sexual violence against children, and we also work towards the whole framework of child protection. And as we get some of these stories and as we allow the children to speak through these stories, then they constitute our advocacy, our policy engagement, so that we change and create an environment in which children are able then to fully enjoy, being children, and fully enjoy the rights of children and grow up in a society that is caring and supportive of the rights of children. So it's the book enables to push advocacy messages. It enables us to engage from a policy perspective, but also create some of the community dialogues where, as community leaders, the communities start to understand the situations and the challenges for the children. It might be one child that is writing a story, but that child might actually be representative of thousands of other children that actually, are facing similar, situations or challenges. And when each story is read, we don't need to take it as an isolated story, but as a general, feeling and challenges which our children are actually facing, and act upon those.
Reporting, I am Bongegazwane with Nelsie Wesemelane in Baban, while some visuals were sourced from the internet.
Let's take a look at our sports news. The Eswatini Athletics Association says even though government has allowed them to go ahead with their activities, only track and field events will resume. According to the Secretary General, Toba Mazibuko, long-distance races are still suspended.
Athletics are one of the sporting courts classified as low risk for transmitting the coronavirus, hence it was allowed to return to action. The Eswatini Athletics has come out to clarify that not all athletics events will be allowed to return for now. The secretary of the association, Toba Mazibuko, says marathons are still suspended.
However, I wish to clarify that it's not all athletics activities because there are some that are still high risk, like the road races, where at the starting points and finishing points you have quite a lot of people gathering, so that will be high risk. That is still suspended for now. The only events that can go ahead are events like track and field, like your 100 meters and field events. Those are the events that can still go on.
Mazibuko concluded by adding that marathons will be allowed back when the government says it is safe. He also encouraged athletes to keep on training to maintain their fitness. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizwe Msibi, Mbabane.
The Eswatini Rugby President, Smanga Makakula, says they use part of the relief fund received from the Rugby World Union to buy food parcels for players. Makakula says some of the money will be used to buy PPEs in the preparation for the resumption of the league should government give them the green light to go ahead with their games.
The World Rugby Union and African Rugby Union donated money that is over 36,000 emalangeni to Eswatini Rugby Federation to be used to buy food parcels for rugby players in the country during this period where the world is fighting the coronavirus. The Eswatini Rugby Association President, Smanga Makakula, explained. Makakula says the relief fund they received is for food parcels for rugby players because of the COVID-19 outbreak. The Rugby Union saw it fit to help out. The amount of 36,000 emalangeni has been used to buy the food parcels for all the 8 teams that affiliate with them. Makakula said they started with Manzini and Hoho region and they will then give the rest of the teams in due time. Representing the Eswatini Sports Council, Tomsana Ndwana says they are grateful to the Rugby Union for this gesture.
I must say we are very, very grateful to the Rugby Union, my brother, for what they've done today in taking into consideration their members. We are aware the COVID-19 pandemic has really affected the sports movement in the country.
The Eswatini Rugby Association says they are still expecting more help from the Rugby Union when the games finally return, which will be determined by how much needs they have. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizwe Msibi in Malkens.
Before we wrap up our bulletin, let's take a quick recap of the headlines. The Development Bank of Southern Africa has donated personal protective equipment worth 9.3 million emalangeni to the Kingdom of Eswatini. The Kirsch Foundation has donated 45 million emalangeni, which will provide food aid to needy eMaswati. Head teachers have asked government to allow Form 3s to go back to school. Eswatini, that's all the news we had for you tonight. Up next is the weather forecast. Good night and God bless.
We've been drifting, lost at sea. You're so far.
Bring the family